sure, and he has had a lot of success. He is the second, leading rusher on the team right now, with 239 yards. He's also been sacked 23 times. So, yeah, he's a threat running. I think something to watch, and I forgive me, I forget if we've talked about this already. For how great Zadarius Smith has been, he's been very aggressive all season too, and I feel like he's been giving up that contain, and we've been being beat on those jet sweep type plays, quarterbacks getting loose on that on his side of the field. Earlier in the season more than recently, but I think a guy like Teddy is trying to stay in the pocket a little bit longer, just based on the fact that he's been sacked so much, that he's probably staying in there a little bit too long. And unless it's a complete breakdown on our D, or a designed rush or something like that, I guess I'm just not as concerned about Teddy, going deep on us in terms of rushing.
Yeah, and that brings up another point. So if they're going to be doing a little bit more, of those short passes, and he's going to try to get the ball out quick, or throwing to running backs or right over the middle to his receivers, kind of on a crosser. I don't think we do a great job defending those types of plays. I think during the Lions game last week, we saw a lot of those go for. The Lions get one block, throw it to the running back at the line of scrimmage, and he runs for 15, 16 yards. So,
oh my goodness,
I'll be interested to see if they adjust their game plan to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of expose that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't know if we're talking about the same thing here, but kind of going back to the Lions game on a review note. But then also, if I'm the offensive coordinator for any of the teams going against the Packers, how successful were those screen passes against us last week? I mean, 10, 15-yard plays where it's like, it was like a moving company in front of the running back without Packers to be seen. And I'm honestly, if it was against the Vikings and Dalvin Cook was back there, I think a couple of those go for touchdowns, because he just had, I forget who the running back, I think it was Swift. He had 3 big linemen running on the field in front of him, and that was something that I think was kind of my biggest negative from last week. That, to your point, if we kind of get in that situation where we allow that screenplay to happen, or that quick pass, wide out screen, where I can see us getting in a little bit of trouble, but with the big caveat of, I still don't think they can keep up with Green Bay offensively, right? Like, I think they can expose our defense, and we'll see a lot of the same old from our defense. But, like, do you expect them to put up 36 points against us to probably keep pace with something that we're going to do?
No, I certainly don't. And I guess it's maybe foreshadowing or a prediction of the future. But if we start, if we're facing Derrick Henry in a couple of weeks, and if he is the one that's receiving that catch, to your point, or if it's Dalvin Cook in the playoffs, or, somebody like that, it could be the demise of this defense, because I think once when that issue on our defense is exploited, this never seems to be anything we can do to fix it. But I guess speaking of that, and like kind of a key to the game, do you, I guess what, or I should say your player for the game offensively, who do you think has to have a big game for the Packers to seal this win?
So it's kind of like a weird choice, and maybe you'll agree with me. I think it's almost by default, though. I'm looking to Jamal Williams to have a big game. And by big game, okay, I just mean a solid game, and not having, an average of 1.5 yards, 2 yards. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think he's going to be the featured back, which it kind of felt like we were trying to have him be last week. It felt, and I would like to hear your take on this. It felt like, at least in the beginning of the game, we kept Aaron Jones on the sidelines a lot. And I think that's probably because we know what's coming, playoffs right around the corner. And we're probably trying to keep his legs, young and healthy this season. And it just felt like, Jamal had a fine game, of course, but it just didn't feel like, it felt like in the second half of the game, they had to get Aaron Jones back in to kind of get some of those clutch first down plays. Did you notice that at all? It felt like Jamal had a bigger role against the Lions.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was by design or to your point, if they were trying to kind of keep Aaron Jones fresh for the playoffs. But yeah, I mean Aaron Jones ended up having more carries than Williams did, 15 to Jamal Williams 10, and you know Aaron Jones was averaging 4.5 a carry, and Jamal Williams averaging 3.5.
Yep,
So I don't know if it was they were trying to keep Jamal Williams for the kind of the ground and pound, and then have Aaron Jones um, try to make things happen, in kind of the edge around or the outside runs or things like that. But um, yeah, I think we'd like to see Jamal Williams have a better, rush average than 3.8. If he can get above 4 yards a carry, but he was also getting a lot of those kind of clutch first down conversions with a yard or two or three to go.
for sure.
So
And I guess my
I
point
think
is, let's if I'm reading what I saw early in that Lions game correct, and if that is our goal to keep Aaron fresh, let's key player of the game is let's get a nice run attack here this week and seal this game up, and the added benefit of maybe Aaron's the one who only has 8, 9, 10 rushes to keep him a little bit fresher here in a game again that we
yeah,
should
I think
handedly
that would
win.
be ideal.
How about you offensively?
So I'm gonna go offensively with Robert Tunyon. Here's
Big Bob Tunyon?
an interesting big Bob Tunyon. So here's an incredible statistic that I saw. So this year, when Aaron Rodgers targets Robert Tunyon, Robert Tunyon has more touchdown catches than Rodgers has incompletions when he's being targeted. Is that insane or what?
I love it.
I love it too, and I think in a game like this, I would love to see Robert get a couple more targets than he had last week. He had a good game last week, but I'd like to see him do a little bit more, and just selfishly, just want to see him kind of have another breakout game like when he had the hat trick several weeks ago. But there's no particular reason that I think he needs to have a big game. I just think, if Alan Lazard's only going to get a couple targets, and we can't really rely on MVS as a consistent number two yet, I think, Tunyon is going to kind of be the guy. That's a prediction and a kind of just a hope for me for this week.
I love it. I think you're right because I think he needs a couple more. He's had his breakout games, and then he's been quiet. I think he needs more, obviously breakout games, obviously, but just more consistent games too, where he's putting up really good numbers, but maybe isn't getting 3 touchdowns. Maybe he's getting a score. Maybe he's not quite getting a score, but he's still getting 80 yards. Which for of course a tight end is huge, because he's just not to that premier tight end status yet in the league, and it would be nice to kind of feel like he is that, even though his touchdowns are there right now. He's just the vibe that I sense isn't quite there yet, so it'd be really cool.
Well,
if going and
yeah, and it's not, and I agree with you, and I think like that statistic shows though that he is being very consistent. He catches everything that comes to him, so it just begs the question: why doesn't Rodgers target him a little bit more?
Right.
Why isn't he getting thrown to more often if he's basically catching every single throw? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, to your point, I think we would just selfishly like him to be in that conversation of an elite tight end, and it's a weapon that Rodgers hasn't had for a long time. I mean, maybe Jared Cook, but really not since Jermichael Finley was on the team.
Right. And yeah, and to have a guy, because I don't think defenses are scheming around Big Bob Tunyon. All eyes are
Right.
on Devontae and of course Aaron. So to have like just a little bit more of a threat, flashing, which I think he is. But to your point, I know we talked about this several weeks ago. It's almost as if Rodgers is just passing on that throw a lot and not and going Devontae's way. But I like it. I like your pick because I think you're saying it perfectly. Selfishly, it'd just be sweet to have another position and another star in a different position than running back, quarterback, and wide out. God, we're a good freaking team. We have a lot of stars in a lot of key positions. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I think the issue all year has been, do we have depth at the receiver position, or offensive playmakers? But I would argue that we do. And right now, the Packers draft is looking a lot better than the Vikings draft. I'm gonna hopefully not regret saying that, but we may not be getting tons of production from our rookie class, but I think I heard Peter Bukowski say this. He's like, if you're relying on your rookie, like if you think your team had a great draft and that's going to be an indicator for your upcoming season, that's a little off base, because if you're relying on your rookies to be good, you're probably not going to be very good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I think we'll save that for a whole nother episode.
Yeah, let's say that. But what about defensively?
Defensively,
who's your guy on defense this week?
I'm cheating. I'm going to say two, but if you're going to make me pick one, I'm going to say Kevin King. But Jair and Kevin King. The reason why I'm saying that is because, like I mentioned earlier, the two guys I wanted to mention were their two wide receivers, Moore and Anderson. Both guys are above 900 yards receiving already this season. Anderson is about 4 yards away from reaching that mark, so undoubtedly he's probably going to break that against us here Saturday night. And that's just the only way I see us. I mean, I guess we both argued the same point in different ways. You're saying, hey, don't let Teddy beat us. I'm saying don't let these guys beat us. Just because I think they're making Teddy look a little bit better, maybe. I don't know. But just being that deep threat, we're not known defensively as a team to give up those balls, but I just don't want this week to be the week where these guys who, again, I mean, to have two receivers be 1,000-yard have 1,000 yards in receptions is just, not as common as I mean, I don't think we're anywhere near that, obviously with Devontae taking most of our throws, but I just need Jair to do what he's always done and lock down whoever he's on, and then Kevin King to just have a above average game and just make sure we're hopefully batting 1,000 on any passes that go beyond 20 yards.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna say Rashawn Gary is my defensive player this week for a couple of reasons. I guess first, because I think we need to have him start to make more of an impact. I mean, we've been seeing it come on a little bit every single week this year. He's getting sacks, he's getting disruption, behind the line of scrimmage, which is amazing to see. But he also is still a second-year player and kind of makes those mistakes sometimes. So, Bridgewater is more of a veteran quarterback and player in the NFL. And Rashawn Gary, I feel like, has a tendency to kind of get sucked in sometimes when we need him to stay contained. He might move inside to try to make a move or a pressure, and then a guy like Bridgewater will exploit that and just kind of bounce to the outside and be able to gain a few yards and leave Rashawn Gary in the dust. So I think if he can consistently get pressure this week, I think we're going to see him have more snaps than we've seen in the past. That seems to be the case. He's getting more and more every game. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, okay, so this is why I'm now I'm pissed that we didn't do a reaction video podcast for the Lions. And Rashawn Gary looked freaking awesome last week. I forget if it was the first or second sack that we had last week, but he was able to catch up to Stafford, who was bootlegging the opposite direction, and it looked like a freaking speed racer or something. But I was like, who is that? And he was just so freaking fast and able to catch up to Stafford, who was rolling out away from him. And another guy who, we've kind of been waiting to really explode. He's been doing so, like you mentioned, doing better and better the last, season really. But man, he's been so hot, I feel like, and so fast and just closing that gap between himself and the quarterback that I just think I think you just nailed it on the head, where, he's going to be a big key player to get pressure on Bridgewater, but God, he's just been looking so good, so quick, and so fast.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think we're all excited to see what this kid can do, especially if his experience and knowledge within the NFL starts to match his athletic ability. He is gonna be dangerous. dangerous for opposing offenses. So why don't we move on to our predictions? Tell us a little bit about the over-under and then give us your prediction for the game.
Yeah, for sure. Before I do that, I'm going to do key player of the game, special teams wise.
Oh, okay. Should we add that segment? All right. So you were picking Tavon Austin?
Yeah, I was just going to bring him up because you mentioned milestones. It was also the first time Tavon caught a pass from Aaron Rodgers, obviously, because it was his first time playing. But it was kind of cool to see Tavon get some returns punting-wise. He didn't really make a lot happen, but it was just exciting to see something out of him. And it was exciting to see him in the at least get a few snaps